Hello again. Welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait,
I'm Raymond Peterson.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And I'm Alan Singer.
educator, historian Dr. Alan Singer, regular on Media Watch, joining us again. And we're doing this the Wednesday before our Monday air on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, being brought to you by the good
December.
graces of EVT Educational Productions, Zoom, the four of us. And today's date is December
December 17th.
17th. And so it's all about the attack on the democracy that we've been trying to put in place for the last 250 years, closer to 400, but 250 years.
Mhm.
And Media Watch going to take a quick look at the media mergers that have been happening that normally would fall under a FCC serious review, but in this day and age that no longer happens. So, Alan, who are the players that one were struggling to try to get a hold of the Warner Brothers conglomerate that's the leftover Time Warner big media empire?
Well, it's now called Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, Warner Brothers Discovery is important, but for a number of reasons. But one of them is that it controls CNN, the cable news network. Now, Warner Brothers Discovery agreed to sell the company to Netflix because Netflix wants their archives of movies so it could show them. But Paramount, which is controlled by Larry Ellison and his son, who are major Trump allies, they have put in a rival bid. Now, what's scary here is the Federal Communications Commission will have to approve the merger. But Ellison and Paramount are Trump allies. Now, Netflix is not interested in controlling CNN, but Ellison's are. They want to merge it with CBS News, which they recently took over. And what that would do, it would take an independent news agency and basically put it under control of the MAGA people.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about this, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, CNN and the other entity, I think there are three parts to that pie that are going to be spun off separately. They're not going to be part of the whole Warner Brothers big studio acquisition with all the old movies and all that. Part of the deal for Netflix bid was they're not going to try to pick up CNN and the other two entities. They just want the Warner whatever studio material, etc. And what I read was that CNN and those other two entities, whether it's Discovery or whatever, are going to be spun off into a separate independent entity being formed into a separate public kind of company. Bob, did you follow any of that? Do I have it close to accurate?
I think you're accurate. I have not done any deep research into that, but yeah, CNN would end up independent and in that respect easily controllable.
Yeah. So
Control. I'm sorry, Bob. Independent. How so? They're still owned by them, aren't they? Somehow, board of directors
no, the spinoff would put them as a separate
as a
publicly owned
separate
kind of
entity.
entity. That's it.
So,
And
so
so
how
the
can they
trick,
manipulate them?
well, here's what folks who've been digging into this are pointing out. They said the Ellison's bid to try to get the what is it, hostile takeover, is basically just a feint. And it's a feint because they really don't have the right capitalization. Larry Ellison has promised to back it, but he's backing it with a revocable trust that could be modified at any time. And so the money could be yanked out from under. So the bid is not a real bid. But what they're saying is the bid is there as a feint because they don't really want the studios and stuff. what they really want is to get that spinoff to happen sooner, before the March deadline or whatever the deadline is, so that once that spinoff of CNN, Discover, whatever the three entities are, happens, they can then just come back around and quietly say, oh, well, we lost this bit over here for this. We'll make a pitch for the CNN spinoff now because it won't take as much funding and as much financing. And yeah, but that's really the pie that they really want. That's what they want.
It's a roundabout way of acquiring more property.
More media property that deals with news and information.
Now, this has to be approved by the Federal Communications Commission, but that's another part of the story, because that is controlled by Brendan Carr, a major Trump ally. Now, Carr has now arguing in a Senate hearing that Federal Communications Commission, which was established as an independent agency, isn't really an independent agency, and it belongs under the control of the executive branch. He says Congress overstepped their bounds, creating an independent agency in the 1930s. Now, this is actually now in front of the Supreme Court, and the Trump court seems to be prepared to overrule any of the independent agencies and saying they now must serve the president.
So
this
the president
is really scary.
The president hates CNN the way it's currently constituted, just like he hated CBS, just like he hates ABC. And so Ellison's got their Skydance merger bid through the Brendan Carr FCC 2 months ago without any problems. So what makes you think if they come around and say, oh, we want to buy CNN too, that the FCC is going to say, no, you can't do that? That whole media consolidation that they used to frown upon has gone away. And because these are all Trump allies, that means you will now get, because I believe, was it Krugman who wrote the column about the fact that when the Ellisons took over CBS, Barry Weiss got put in charge, and she's basically gutted CBS from being a true independent news agency. So if the Ellisons get CNN, they'll do the same thing to CNN. And so Trump will not only have Fox, OAN, News, what's the other one, Bob?
Newsmax.
Newsmax. He will now have CBS and he will have CNN. And so we'll have a hard right MAGA media conglomerate across the board to spew all kinds of MAGA propaganda so that the electorate will never have a chance of getting any real news and information, especially when you have wacko Elon Musk controlling Twitter. You got Mark Zuckerberg kissing Trump's ass controlling Facebook, and you got Jeff Bezos bowing down and kissing his soles and his ass controlling the Washington Post. And independent news media is down the tubes.
It's at a dangerous point. And for the younger people, I mean, when before the streaming and the internet took over, the big networks were CBS, NBC, ABC, and CNN. If there was a big presidential news conference, those would be the networks filling those 4 seats. And for Ellison to get a hold of CNN on top of CBS, which is already turning far right with its coverage of Charlie Kirk, the program with Charlie Kirk's wife, and the 60 Minutes with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
She sure is cashing in on that.
Yes, they're already spinning right with the people they're having on air. So, excuse me, this is a dangerous point in independent journalism because it's fading.
So,
it's
Alan,
it's democracy.
Talk to us about that, Alan.
Yeah, no, because a big step in the transition from democracy to authoritarianism is taking over
the media. Yeah.
And what has happened is independent media, they take it over either by buying it up like Amazon's Jeff Bezos, bought Washington Post, or indirectly by suing them with bringing with heavy lawsuits, placing hostile regulators in charge, making them pay penalties and fines, or what Seth is doing in the Defense Department, just not letting them cover anything. So what we are looking, this is what happened in Venezuela and Turkey and Russia, Hungary, all these countries that transition from democracy to autocracy. A big part was control over independent media.
Yeah. That's the way it always starts.
So what we have as part of the Project 2025 playbook was to get this authoritarian presidency, this unitary presidency in power in place. And so that's why they've had this blitzkrieg of executive orders. And that's why they have done all these anti-constitutional moves through the executive orders, or just through flatly disregarding whatever judges might throw up roadblocks. And so the big fight right now is Congress deciding whether or not we're conducting illegal business by bombing boats in the Caribbean and the Pacific. And they're facilitating this autocratic move because the Republicans who now run Congress, they had the same briefing behind closed doors about those bombings. The Republicans said, oh, everything they did was fine. The Democrats came out and said that shit is illegal. I saw nothing that made me think anything was legal about killing those people in the water off those boats. So now they've stepped that up. Bob, talk to us about this blockade and the seizure of the Venezuelan tanker. This is another autocratic playbook that disregards any legal justification nationally or internationally. There may be a loophole. Go ahead.
I mean, when I saw the video of U.S. helicopters landing on the deck of a tanker outside Venezuela, and military personnel basically taking it over, I mean, I was super shocked, like I was with the rest of you. And in terms of legality, can the U.S. seize a ship in the open seas?
On the high seas. Yeah.
And under international law, a sanctioned ship can be a ship that's under sanction or is not flying a flag can be boarded and visited to see, what's up, what's sailing out there in international waters, because you want to know what's out there. And so that's defensible under the Trump administration, under U.S. law. But I've been reading in a number of news outlets that it's questionable under international law with some loopholes that apparently the U.S. is using. They're calling it a drug, a sanctioned ship that shouldn't be there, but it's the wording is more for political purpose than for legal right. In terms from the experts I've read, it's to the benefit of U.S. interests to board and seize the ship. Legally, very gray, very gray. And we were all talking before we started taping about the danger of a military conflict coming out of this. We're in a flashpoint.
Yeah, I just got in my inbox the fact that the Venezuelan government has now launched their Navy patrols to escort any tanker with their oil going anywhere are now being escorted by Venezuelan Navy ships. So our blockade is going to run afoul of Venezuelan Navy ships. So we're on the brink of escalating
of war.
Go ahead, Ray.
We're on the brink of a war. If the Venezuelan army is escorting a ship and we bomb it, that's an act of war.
The Navy is escorting
the way I
tanker.
see it, yes, right. So, and if we bomb that ship, that's an act of war because they're under the protection of the Venezuelan army.
Navy.
Maybe.
Go ahead, Alan.
Go ahead, Alan. Yeah.
What scares me is this is what happened in the Gulf of Tonkin incident in 1964 that led to the escalation of the war in Vietnam.
Right.
What happens is the United States is encroaching on shipping, and claims that one of the ships opened fire on an American vessel. We don't really know if that ever happened.
Right, right.
But if the United States Navy begins to squeeze Venezuelan ships, whether they fire back or they don't fire back, and the United States just claims they did, this will lead to war.
Right.
And the United States, Trump is not likely to back down.
No,
Not at all.
This is not a backing down thing. This is a provocation thing. This is basically what he's wanting. Oh, historically, I was in the Vietnam theater at the time that stuff was going on, Alan. And I found out years later, digging into the stuff when I became a news person, that, yeah, that was a fabricated thing. It didn't actually happen. Lyndon Johnson used that fabricated thing to escalate his involvement in the Vietnam War. So you're correct. It was something that they wanted to have an excuse to escalate involvement, and they got it by manufacturing it.
And the big trouble here. Go ahead,
ahead.
Eric. Well, I was just going to say quickly, the big trouble here is that we don't get any information from the Department of, I was going to say Defense, it's war now. We don't get any information. We don't know what was in the little boats that were missiled. We don't know what was, actually, they didn't tell us what was in the Venezuelan ship.
And we're not going to.
Huh?
I said we're not going to because of the MAGA media.
I mean,
we're not going to get the news. That's the whole point about taking over the media. You can do anything you damn want, and the people are never going to know because you're not going to get the news.
It took Al Jazeera to tell me. It took Al Jazeera to tell me the name of the ship, what it was carrying, what port it came from, and where it was going. I got that from Al Jazeera, and our government didn't tell us that.
Here's the interesting thing. The briefing that I mentioned before was a classified briefing just for the senators, etc. And they saw what they've been hiding from the rest of us. But Pete Hegseth has said, well, we're still reviewing it, and maybe in the next couple of days we might let some of the stuff out, but we're not going to show all the classified. Well, the Democratic senators that saw the classified briefing said, if you look at it one way, if we're in war, it was an act of war. And if you look at it another way, if we're not in war, it was an act of murder. So basically, they got our military people either committing war crimes or committing murder. And that's where we are now.
Yeah.
And see, the interesting
piracy.
thing.
Yeah.
No. Piracy.
No. We're talking about piracy.
I understand.
Yeah. No. That's murder.
Stretch it and call it piracy, but
that's murder or war crime. Yeah.
But yes.
It's one of the two. It's the one thing it's not. The one thing it's not is justified.
It's not justified.
That's true.
And we've got and see, the interesting thing is, because I want to stay on this, because all these actions that he's taking, and I say he because it's not Hegseth, it's Trump who gave these orders. Trump who said, blow them out of the water, so people can understand that I mean what I say. And Hegseth says, how many do you want me to blow? How fast do you want me to blow them? That's what that's all about. It is Trump who's orchestrating this because he still wants to see himself as a war president. But guess what? This war omnibus bill that they just passed today, 900 billion, whatever the fuck, huge, giant amount of money. They've taken back their war authorization powers, stripped it in this bill that he's got to sign to get the money that he wants. But the bottom line is they still have not declared war on anybody.
No.
And they still reserve the right to declare war to the Congress. And so he has no leg to stand on, even if he escalates that conflict with Venezuela, unless Congress authorizes him. But Ray, you and I were having a discussion. What's your take? Do you think whether Congress authorizes it or not, when this thing escalates off the coast of Venezuela? Because I think the ship may have been in Venezuelan waters when they boarded it, not on the high seas. There's a question.
I think you're right. I think it was on Venezuelan territory. But as you say, we were talking about will it come to war? And you say that the Congress is not going to stop him from doing this. Well, he's going to do it. I agree with you. He's going to do whatever he wants. But I don't think that even MAGA supporters are going to stand by while their children are being sent there to die or be maimed, their lives wrecked for the rest of their lives. I think there's going to come a point. Now, you say I'm optimistic, and I am optimistic because I still believe in humanity. I believe that humanity is going to take over. You can only oppress people and mistreat them for so long before they fight back.
But how long
But
do you think?
I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic that humanity will succeed in quashing this. But I'm proven wrong every day so far. We'll see what happens.
Well,
I'm not
You know,
optimistic, Ray.
not a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
I agree with you that the American people usually reaches a breaking point and say enough is enough. We're not going to have our kids dying for your stupidity any longer. We usually get to that point. But it took us a long time to get to that point in Afghanistan, took us a long time to get to that point in Vietnam. How long do you
because
think it's going to take for these MAGA people and the rest of the country to get up in arms when he starts dumping troops into Venezuela to say, oh, yeah, this is in the interest of the national security of the United States of America? What's your guess of how long he's going? Because I think he's going to put troops in there
I
without
don't
an
know.
authorization from Congress, which
No,
is
what he's
against the
going to
law and
do,
against the Constitution.
he's
I
going to
think
either
he's definitely going to try
manufacture
to do
a
that.
phony incident or they will provoke an incident. And then he will
Well,
go to Congress and say the United States was attacked. And
yeah,
a day that will live in infamy, and we have to respond.
I,
They're going to
you know,
phony it.
but we can see that he's provoking it right now. Why would we have
yeah,
to do that? We've done that stupidity more than once in our history. We cannot keep
yeah.
repeating the same stupidity over and over. Why would we fall for an autocratic wacko pushing us into a war needlessly when we can see him trying to walk that path before he does it?
Because they
But we
control the media and because
Because people are, you're
the,
right. Yeah.
the
And some
crypto
people are just
bros,
plain stupid.
well, no, they could dominate the media. And the crypto bros, what they call the broocracy, don't believe in democracy, and they will do what they have to support Trump because Trump supports their billions. You
Yeah.
know, they'll,
Yeah.
they'll
Until
charge
they find out that
Venezuela for the war.
they've been sold out as well.
So,
You know,
so
he promised his base. Oh, I'm going to reduce prices,
Yeah.
groceries here. Everybody's going to be able to eat. Yeah, that hasn't happened.
the bro,
Gasoline is still up there. He hasn't done anything that he has promised his
the
base, except attempt to build his wall, get rid of as many immigrants as he possibly can. But basically, he hasn't fulfilled any of his promises to make America great again.
he has for the Broligarchy.
yeah.
He's done
Yeah,
everything
we're
the
talking about
Broligarchy
1%.
wanted.
You're talking about 1%. Do you
Yeah,
remember
guess
what
what?
happened in France?
Guess what? The 1% are the ones that are driving the engine right now.
Do
Alan,
you
you were
remember
talking
what
about the
happened in France?
Broligarchy. Never mind France. I'm talking about right here, right
Right
now.
now, yeah,
Right
right. How
here,
long
right
can it
now.
go on? Like
This
I
is what
say,
we're dealing with right now.
call me optimistic.
They're not
I don't
even
think
the
it's going to
1%.
stand you.
They're the 0.1%.
I was
Yep.
just going to say that.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right about that. I stand corrected because you're right. They're the 1/10 of 1% that are
Yeah.
driving the bus right now. They
Yeah,
could care
well,
less about democracy. Alan, see if you can find some of those quotes. If you can
Oh,
find them, they could
I
care
got them
less
right here.
about democracy. Read out what this Broligarchy people are saying
Okay.
that Trump is eating up.
Peter Thole, who is the godfather of J.D. Vance, declared, I no longer think that freedom and democracy are compatible. Elon Musk, the other one, has praised the neo-Nazi AfD in Germany, and Twitter is now a bot-infested Nazi hellhole. And Alex Karp, who's the head of the Pentagon contractor,
Palantir. Yeah.
Palantir, he supports warmongering so he could sell more equipment to the Pentagon. I mean, these are the 0.1%.
Jesus.
Yeah.
God.
And guess what? Because they're trying to make sure they buy up all that media, they're going to control the narrative so that, one, while the Supreme Court and other jurisdictions allow them to gerrymander in favor of the Republicans, so you can't take control of any of the houses legally because they have rigged the deck. Once you try to fight that in court, you got a 6-3 Supreme Court that gives Trump everything he's asked for so far. They are aiding and abetting this rush to autocracy, this unitary presidency, this whatever you want to call it, that's
A coup.
torpedoing.
This is a coup.
This is a rush to autocracy that's destroying our Constitution. I don't know how much time we have left.
We have about 90 seconds. Go ahead.
Oh, you meant for the show or for democracy?
For both.
Yeah, really.
Really.
But go ahead, Alan, sum it up.
No, it's just scary. The clock is ticking, and I'm just very worried. And I know all of us are.
Bob, what do you take away?
I'm just happy I'll probably be dead before it happens.
I don't know. Unless you go fast.
I'm worried about the lack of information because we the people aren't getting what they need to know. We're being fed what the Trump administration wants to feed us, and you know that's what's scaring me. We don't have the people pushing back. Don't have enough people pushing back at the moment.
What scares me is all the people that believe him and follow everything. What he says is gospel.
Okay.
He will be on TV tonight at 9 o'clock, outlining all his successes.
And we're taping this before that's addressed to the country.
Yeah. So I think that about sums it up. Some of us might have to listen to some more lies tonight. I'm not sure I'm going to subject myself to that.
I'm not going to watch it.
I'll look for the recap later, but I think we're about out of time.
about there.
This has been Media Watch, folks. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Raymond Peterson, and their commercials, their sponsors are not going to pay when people are not watching their network.
And
so that's another thing.
I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and I hope ICE does not interdict Santa Claus.
And I'm Bob Anthony.
They'll shoot him down, probably.
And I'm Bob Anthony. Catch up to us on YouTube at Media Watch EVT.
And we'll catch you the next time, folks. Stay safe. Have a great holidays, and we'll catch you the next time.
Bye-bye.